why, could you expand to the listeners and viewers and say, what's happening here? What's happening in all these layers of stories that you're writing here in this great book?
Well, I could, but that would kind of spoil book 2 and 3, really.
Oh, go on, let us.
I actually didn't think about it when I was writing it. I did, when I was writing that, I did sort of almost write the end of Jack. I actually killed him off in one of the chapters. I know I was a bit naughty. I'd got Sylvie coming to the hospital and Tom, because they were estranged, and Tom was like, I'm not talking to you, and your dad's dead, and coming out like this, and I'm like, no, I'm going to keep you alive and make you suffer a little bit more. So just because I did want to carry it on, and I thought, no, this book is about her. He will have his chance later on. So he is a bit of a naughty boy, shall we say. His background is not good from where he comes from based in London. Obviously, most of the places in the book are made up, but a kind of London type gang area is where he comes from. And they escaped up there because of his past, and partly hers as well, because she's got a colourful past as well. So Sylvie's got a colourful past as well. So it's all yeah. Yeah.
So, the book's got great layers, people, listeners, viewers, very intriguing, multi-layered is how I describe it. So it's not just about Katie. There's a lot more going on in this book. Once you've read it, you start to understand there's a lot going on. Yeah. So read the book. For me, Lisa, with your characters, there's one character we've not talking about, and for me, this is a hidden character. And this, in your novel, and that's the voice in Katie's head, who you reference to as bitch. The voice that challenges Katie's confidence, her actions. So why this silent, hidden voice character? Does this relate to what went on in your own life? As the character went on in your own head? Because we all know that Katie is, loosely based on you.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. That's very much the thoughts and emotions in the book are very much me. In most part, most of it. Some of it isn't. Some of it's other people or other people's experiences that I've touched on slightly. But most of it is me. And the bitch in her head, I suppose it's almost, it's an ego thing, isn't it? It's, you're not good enough and you'll never do that. And you, the more you listen to it, the more you believe it. And I'd never thought about it until you said, actually, that is another character almost. That, the bitch could almost have a book of her own.
Oh, I think she could.
Yeah, just that, it had never occurred to me until you said it, to be honest. So you've got me sort of thinking, how can I do that then?
It's interesting because different people view the same book in different ways, and they come from different angles. So that's why I asked the question about this hidden character.
Yeah.
And as you said, you perhaps didn't realise that. So you never know. We might be having a book about the hidden character.
Yeah.
The title would be interesting. What would you call it? What would we call it?
I know. The bitch.
The bitch. A new chapter. Yeah.
The bitch reformed. The bitch reformed.
Yeah.
Or the bitch reformed. Yeah. The bitch reforms. Yeah. Love it.
Oh, absolutely. Do you know what? And not just the book itself, because one of the most important things about a book is sometimes it's the cover itself, because that's the eye-catching thing that some, readers like to look at. Oh, that's an eye-catching cover. So when you look at your cover of the book, Katie in a new chapter, it's got the woods and it's got the butterflies. Now, the woods obviously relate to the woods in the story. And I think that the butterflies, which there is a section on the butterflies, is it's not butterflies themselves, it's referring to the butterflies in Katie's stomach, isn't it? The nerves. So you have lots of butterflies when you were dealing with all your issues.
Oh, yes. It's kind of multifaceted in some ways, because it's the butterflies in her stomach. It's the transformation as well, you know, with the from the caterpillar to the butterfly. But it's also, it did happen to me, because the butterflies I was working in, when I was working in Menorca, I worked at a hotel, and there was plant pots all down the side by the pool. And bear in mind, this was high season, 2019, nobody by the pool, nobody about, which is just unbelievable. And all of a sudden, I'm walking past and I'm looking for somebody. I'm already late for my next hotel, so I'm looking for a guest. And these butterflies, and there must have been about 100, just flew out and just surrounded me. And I'm like, okay, so what are you trying to tell me here? It was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. No photographic evidence, no proof, no nothing. And it was just that moment in time, and it was absolutely amazing. I'll never, ever forget it. And I thought, that's got to go in the book, because that's several different things. That's, yeah, at the time I was still stressed. Butterflies in your stomach, because you know you're late for your next hotel, and you're all panicky because you know people are waiting for you, and you booked an appointment. And then the transformation, that I'm totally different to how I was before. Even though I'm still stressed, I'm a different person. And just the experience. So it's all kind of very different experiences all rolled into one, really.
Now, you give the character, Katie, what, she's aged about 23 in the book, isn't she?
Yeah, yeah.
And all the characters are quite young, all bar from Jack and Sylvie and probably Vera.
Yeah.
But the other ones, they're all young characters. And you give, you're talking here with Katie, going through the process of a hysterectomy, which, you know, you unfortunately at a tender age went through yourself. Do you think that blokes should be more aware of the issues around hysterectomy, which affect women, and, you know, and so do you think this could be a book for blokes to read as well, to broaden their minds?
Yes, very much so. I have had several male readers and several reviews from men and messages from men. Different parts of the book have stood out, like the abuse bit or hysterectomy. I never realised that. And of course, on top of the hysterectomy, you've got menopause, and you know it's a major operation. No matter how much of the organs are taken away, it's still a major operation, and it does change you. It's, you know, it's bound to that. I can't have children, and I haven't got children, so that's something else I've got to look at. Do I want to suffer the pain? Do I want children? You know, there's so much to take into account, and I do think men need to understand it more. It's hard. They're never ever going to experience those feelings and those emotions and that actual physical surgery. And when I had my surgery, I actually chose a male consultant, because I'm like, well, I don't want to, you know, he can only tell me the facts. You know, he's not experienced it, so he was dealing in facts. And I'm thinking, if I pick a woman, is she going to say, well, I've been through this, I've been, and I'm like, no, just dealing facts. But when you're in that environment and you're in that relationship with somebody who's going through it, it's very hard to understand it from the woman's point of view. And the thoughts and emotions and feelings were exactly what I was going through when I wrote that chapter.
So that's why, you know, that's a strong character in the book when she's talking about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The book ends, I mean, it's set up in a chronological order. When you look at the book, everybody, the chapters are really dates, you know, of events. That's how Lisa's put the book together, which is interesting. Was that purposeful?
It was accidental. It was given right as a bad name, because it was like, as I read through my notes, which is all that they were when I started it, And I went to a developmental editor. She said, I love your notes. I'm like, God, that was my book. So I'm like, okay, start again. So as I'm going through it, because I've got so much information, I had to kind of section it off and go, right, when did that happen? Because as I'd worked through it and went back to edit it, I'd said something happened on a Wednesday, but when I actually researched it, that particular date was a Tuesday. So for me to remember and to make sure I'd got the order correct, I just titled it with a date. And then as I went back through, I'm like, well, what happens on that day? And I'm like, oh, I can't remember. So I had to read it through again and again and again. So I just put headings in of what happens in that chapter. And then when I came to print it and publish it, I just thought, you get advice from different people and like, no, you've got too many chapters, you don't want headings, you don't want chapter numbers. And I'm like, do you know what? I'm going to leave it in. I'm going to leave it in because it sets the scene of the time frame, people that were at the age that were alive in the 90s. It'll give people who weren't an idea of, the younger generation idea of what it was like. And for me to remember that what was happening in that chapter. And I thought, well, that's a good start so that, you can almost sort of entice the reader with the next chapter, like the hysterectomy, so they know what's coming. And then your knight in shining armour, oh, he's going to save her, they're going to run off into the sunset. No. But that's the sort of, the sort of idea of leaving them in, I suppose.
Yeah, and when when you look at the book, towards the end, there's some authors said you need to put a happy end it so the reader feels comfortable at the end of the book, and some people leave a bit like me, leave people in suspense and thinking, a bit like the TV companies, when the soaps come on, and the cliffhanger is always at the end, isn't it?
Yes.
Because they want you to either read the next book or to watch the next TV series or the next TV program. But in your book, you've opted to do a reasonable, happy ending.
Yeah. And
this is the interesting bit, everybody. This is where the naturist bit comes in here. And I am going to talk about it.
Go for it.
Go for it, yeah. So the book ends like, most novels on a happy note with the pub. So she begins, she now owns the pub and she's, got her own house. But she's plucked up the courage before that to go on holiday. And for her, that's a huge challenge for her confidence and things like that. So you take her to a little island abroad, and that's where she does some skinny dipping.
Yes.
Talk about that.
She does, yes. That was another quite pivotal time in my life. I wrote it in because, and I have had some comments about this, I want to go on holiday on my own. I've never had the confidence. I don't have the courage. How did you do it? And people that are saying this, some knew me when I was ill and some didn't. And I'm like, well, if you'd have said that to me 10 years ago, I would have laughed in your face. But it was very liberating for me. The first time was on a nudist beach. I didn't go in the sea. And I worked abroad. When I worked abroad, and I was getting like, I'm going home because I've had enough. I didn't sign up for all this rubbish. I am going home. And my boss, the gentleman at the time, he's just like, Lise, go home. Don't go back to work today. I'll cover your hotel. Go home. Go jump in the sea. I'm like, okay, thanks, Dan. Go jump in the sea. He said, while you're at it, go jump in the sea with no clothes on. And I'm like, did we just have this conversation? And he's like, seriously, he says, honestly, he says, you'll just love it. You'll just absolutely love it. And he told me, because he knew the area very well, he lives over there, and he told me where to go. So I got home, jumped all my stuff, got changed, walked down, and my flatmate came with me as well. And that was the start of it. We went in that night, we were in there for about 10 minutes, came out and we were like, wow. And then we had to do it again.
There you go, everybody. There's the naturist bit.
Yeah, we had to do it again. We did it regularly then. We did it 2 or 3 times a week, really. And then, when it got colder, we did it maybe once a week.
No, it doesn't work when it's cold.
Yeah, cold.
And it's so this is the new part of her chapter, isn't it? She's owning the pub, she's got a house, so this is the new life for her, and that's why it's called Katie, a new chapter. That's all about the book.